The City on the Edge of Eternity, Constantinople, May 28, 1453. The sun is setting behind the domes and towers of the largest fortified city on Earth. For over 1,000 years, these walls have defied empires, armies, and time itself. Tonight, everything remains intact. The markets are closing, the harbor is restless, and the air feels heavier than usual. In this reconstruction, we enter the final hours before the fall. Using modern visual tools, we move through streets that no longer exist as they once did, shifting perspective between rooftops, towers, and battlements. This is not the story of the battle. This is the city just before it changes forever. To understand what will be lost by morning, we must first walk through what still remains tonight.
A city that should never have fallen, Constantinople was considered unbreakable. Its triple earthen walls stretched for miles, covered in stone, towers, and defensive platforms that had held back invaders for centuries. From above, the Theodosian Walls form a rigid backbone protecting the western flank of the city. Beyond them lies the Ottoman camp, silent but vast. Inside the gates, citizens move cautiously, aware of the siege but maintaining their daily routines. Candles are lit inside houses made of stone and wood. Church bells echo through the narrow streets. The city does not seem defeated. It seems suspended in time. As we move along the outer walls, we see defenders positioned between towers, scanning the horizon. Nothing seems broken. And yet, at dawn, this entire balance will collapse.
The earthen walls and the weight of defense. The western walls are not a single barrier, but a layered defensive system. First, a moat, then an outer wall, then an imposing inner wall reinforced with massive square towers spaced at regular intervals. From this perspective, the city seems designed for permanence. The masonry is thick, repeatedly repaired over centuries. Ancient catapults and cannons had already struck parts during the siege, yet the structure still stands. Soldiers move between the parapets, carrying supplies and reinforcing weak sections with wood and earth. The gates remain sealed, including the San Romano gate, where the pressure has been greatest. The silence between artillery shots feels unnatural. The defenders know the assault is imminent. Yet the walls, illuminated by torchlight, still give the illusion of invincibility. The Blachernae district and the imperial shadows. Near the northwest corner lies the Blachernae Palace complex, where emperors lived in times of crisis. By 1453, the palace had not regained its former grandeur, but it remained symbolically vital. Here, Emperor Constantine XI prepares for what he knows could be his last stand. The surrounding district is quieter than the city's commercial heart. Narrow streets wind between monasteries and the residences of lower officials. The palace walls dominate sections where fortifications merge with older structures, creating uneven defensive lines. From above, we see how centuries of expansion created architectural layers, each era building upon another. The empire is now thinner, reduced in territory, but within these walls survives the institutional memory of Rome itself.
Tonight, that memory feels fragile but intact.
Hagia Sophia before dawn. In the center of the city stands Hagia Sophia, with its vast dome dominating the horizon. Built almost 9 centuries earlier, it remains the spiritual heart of Constantinople. As the night progresses, citizens gather inside to pray. Candles flicker under mosaics of gold and deep blue. The marble floor reflects the changing light of the hanging lamps. The structure feels immovable, as if anchored to eternity. Outside, the surrounding square remains lively and bustling. Families cross the streets toward the church, seeking comfort within its walls. From above, we can see how the cathedral anchors the urban grid, with roads radiating outward like spokes. Its scale overshadows the neighboring buildings. In these hours before the attack, Hagia Sophia functions not only as a place of worship, but as a refuge of collective identity. The Messe Markets. The main thoroughfare, known as the Messe, runs through the city from west to east. Even under siege conditions, limited trade continues. The stalls are now smaller, the goods scarcer, but the market's structure remains intact. Stone columns line sections of the avenue, remnants of earlier imperial constructions. Merchants speak in low tones. Grain, dried fish, oil, and cloth are exchanged cautiously. Warehouses near the Forum of Constantine remain partially stocked, although supplies have dwindled. The urban layout reveals a city designed for density. Buildings rise very close together, their upper floors slightly overhanging the street. The movement is compressed but steady. The Messe shows a city trying to maintain normalcy under abnormal conditions. It is here that the resilience of everyday life becomes most visible.
The Golden Horn and the maritime lifelines. To the north, the Golden Horn curves inward, forming a natural harbor protected by a massive chain stretching across its entrance. Byzantine ships remain anchored within, fewer in number than in previous centuries, but still active. Warehouses line the waterfront. Stevedores move among ships, repairing hulls and unloading supplies. Across the water, Ottoman forces have maneuvered ships overland to bypass the chain, a strategic shift that changed the balance of the siege. From this elevated reconstruction, we see both fleets in view of each other. The harbor is no longer safe. Yet, the city's maritime identity persists. For centuries, trade connected Constantinople with the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Tonight, that network is reduced to a defensive perimeter defined by water and desperation.
Residential accommodations at night. Away from walls and monuments, ordinary neighborhoods reveal the human scale of the city. Modest houses cluster along winding streets, unevenly paved with stone. Oil lamps shine behind windows with shutters. Families gather for dinner, unaware of what tomorrow may bring. Wells and small courtyards provide shared space among structures. Urban density reflects centuries of growth within limited boundaries. Cattle pens, warehouses, and workshops coexist beneath the upper accommodations. The air carries smoke from home fires. From the rooftop level, we see how compressed the city has become. There is no open expanse here, only layers of housing built upon Roman foundations. The empire may appear diminished territorially, but within these walls, an entire urban organism continues to function until its last breath.
Midnight on the walls. As midnight approaches, movement intensifies along the western defenses. Messengers carry instructions between commanders. Priests offer blessings to soldiers stationed at the most vulnerable breaches. The soundscape shifts from distant murmurs to focused preparation. Torches line the parapets, casting long shadows over the stone. Beyond the moat, Ottoman forces reposition artillery and infantry units for the final coordinated assault. From above, we see the geometry of the confrontation. Straight walls against curved encampments. The defenders are fewer, but their discipline remains intact. The city does not yet seem conquered. It seems focused. Each tower houses men ready to resist. The sky remains dark, and in this suspended hour, the outcome is still technically undecided.
The Emperor's final circuit. Constantine XI rides along the segments of the wall, offering words of encouragement. He wears armor instead of imperial attire. His presence is practical, not ceremonial. This is no longer the era of triumphant processions, but of direct defense. As we follow his movement from tower to tower, the scale of the fortifications becomes clearer. The walls stretch beyond the immediate line of sight, emphasizing both strength and vulnerability. A breach in one section could collapse the entire system. Yet, morale remains tied to the belief that these defenses have held before. The emperor's circuit is not theatrical. It is measured, deliberate. He understands the weight of continuity. He represents not just a city, but a lineage that traces back to Rome.
Inside Hagia Sophia, the vigil continues. The interior becomes fuller as midnight passes. Citizens kneel beneath imposing columns. Chants resonate throughout the vast chamber, reverberating against the marble and mosaic. The architecture amplifies every sound, turning individual voices into a unified resonance. From above, the dome appears suspended over the congregation, like a heavenly canopy. The scale of the space contrasts with the fragility of those gathered within it. Outside, the soldiers continue preparing for impact. The spiritual and military cores of the city operate simultaneously, reinforcing each other. The vigil is not dramatic. It is steady, rhythmic. In these hours, the building functions both as a sanctuary and a symbol. It remains unchanged, unaware that its identity will soon be redefined.
Silence before dawn. The darkest hour comes before the first sunrise. Along the walls, torches burn below. The soldiers adjust their armor straps and grip their spears tighter. The Ottoman camp grows noisier in its coordinated movement. The drums start to resonate faintly across the plain. From inside the city, the noise reaches the residents in fragmented bursts. Windows open briefly and then close again. From above, we watch how the streets seem still compared to the energy building outside. The geometry of the siege becomes clearer in the dim blue light. The walls cast long shadows over the moat. The city's silhouette, dominated by domes and towers, remains visually intact. It's hard to imagine that in a matter of hours, the control of this entire urban system will change permanently. The first light over the Bosphorus. As dawn approaches, the eastern horizon is faintly illuminated over the Bosphorus. The sea reflects the early light, calm despite the tension inland. The ships in the harbor remain anchored, their silhouettes sharp against the growing glow. From an elevated perspective, Constantinople seems peaceful, almost ordinary. The markets are closed, the doors sealed, the churches full. Nothing at this moment visually signals the purpose. And yet, every structure we see, every tower, street, and courtyard, is on the verge of transformation. This reconstruction allows us to witness the city in its entirety, in its final and uninterrupted form. By mid-morning, its political identity will have changed irrevocably.
The geometry of the final assault. Ottoman forces line up in waves beyond the moat. Artillery positions are recalibrated. Infantry units prepare ladders. Defenders brace at damaged sections near the San Romano gate. From above, the spatial relationship between attacker and defender is unmistakable. The walls are formidable but finite. Once breached, the internal density of the city becomes a burden. The narrow streets that once facilitated trade will hinder coordinated defense. The fortifications that defined security will become entry points. In these final minutes before the assault, the city's design, refined over centuries, faces a new scale of warfare shaped by gunpowder and concentrated infantry.
Constantinople in its final uninterrupted hour. What we have witnessed is not the fall itself, but the intact definitive version of Constantinople, a city full of Roman, Byzantine, and medieval architecture, a city defined by walls, water, and worship. In a matter of hours, new flags will rise over these towers. The political center of the Eastern Roman Empire will cease to exist in its current form. However, the physical city will endure, remodeled rather than erased. By being in this final hour, we understand that urban history is not defined solely by destruction, but by transformation. If there is another city you would like to see rebuilt in its last uninterrupted moment, another capital on the brink of irreversible change, let me know. The past is still closer than it seems. Thanks to careful reconstruction, we can still walk its streets, at least for a moment, before the doors open.